Well, good evening, ladies, and welcome to tonight's conversation. I am Cynthia, the host and founder of the Waiting Room Life, and tonight we have a treat. So on the channel, we have been talking about, or let me say that some ladies have been asking, for me to do videos as it relates to dating over 40. And so I did do a video regarding dating over 40. And last week we had a guest. It was Tanya, who is in her mid 30s. And tonight I thought it would be most fitting to invite someone that I mentored over the years while she was single, and she is now married to a wonderful man, and she's in her 50s. So I thought it would be a blessing for you ladies who are in your 50s and you are still waiting for your Boaz to hear from someone who has newly so to speak, crossed over into her newlywedness, who's in her 50s. And so her name is Tamela Simmons, and I am so excited that she decided to join the conversation on tonight. So welcome, Tamela.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. And Cynthia, thanks for having me.
Thank you. So we're going to kind of have the same format as we did last week with our other guests. And I'm just going to ask you some questions. And I pray that these questions that I'm asking kind of encapsulate some of the questions that ladies have been asking on the channel. And ladies, you all are going to enjoy Tamela. She is hilarious, very transparent. And I really think that this is going to be a blessing. So Tamela, I'm going to ask you some questions, and if you can just answer them to the degree that you are comfortable, and then we just kind of kick off the conversation from there.
Not a problem.
So my first question is, initially, what do you think your odds were at getting married, being in your late 40s, going into your 50s?
I felt that it was a little bleak, but I still believe that it would happen. So it was like, you'd have those moments where maybe I'm getting too old, or you're sharing with your friends that you still desire to get married. And then they kind of give you that look like, girl, please. And I'm like, no, I'm still believing. Even when I had those moments of doubt, I would still revert back to, I'm still believing. I'm asking God, I really, truly want to be married. And, I was that type of person who, when I went on the first date, you knew what my relationship goals were. And I would say, I want to be married, and not necessarily to you. That's what he used to tell me. Not necessarily to you, but I desire to get married. And I think where we run into trouble at is when we say, oh, let's just be friends. Well, if you set that low level, then the man is not it's rarely that he comes up to you. You need to set the level and be true to yourself. So I would say that, and it is what it is. You either are interested. If you're going to be afraid and say, oh, Tamela, you're scaring off the men, then go away. You're not the person for me, because I know what I desire. And if it doesn't fit, I'm not going to force it.
That is some good stuff, Hunty. Good stuff. So did you feel like, so when you talked about being discouraged, was there anything specific that the enemy would hold up in your face as to why it couldn't happen for you, that maybe kept you in a place where you just felt like, okay, it's just over, I know you were married before, there's other relationships that you had,
Yes.
But were there any women around you that kind of supported, like, okay, yeah, this can happen for you? Or did you have a bunch of Debbie Downers saying, honey, it's just too old and just go lay down, just go sit down someplace and don't even think about it?
Right. It's not so much that they said go sit down somewhere, but it would just be the looks and like maybe some small comments like, whatever, I'm this age and I don't desire to be married, but I'm in this long-term relationship. And I think, or I know what would help me is, coming to you and you're encouraging me to say, hey, it will happen, but you just have to keep the faith. And it was like during the mentoring, if you gave me 5 steps to do and I only did 2, then that's on me. That's why the process is not working. I would say, of course, I would keep praying. And it was just something in me. I could not take that desire out of me. Some people, they get married the first time, they're like, oh, I ain't never doing it again. No, I am doing it again. I desire to be married, and I can't take that desire out of me. And I know God gives us the desires of our heart. And I truly believe that. So even when I would get discouraged, I'd reach out to you, I'd pray, but I'm like, this is going to happen. I don't know when, especially when I turned 50. It was all, oh yeah, I'm getting married. I'm ready to get married now. I'm 50, yada, yada, yada. Well, in that waiting time, another thing I was doing was searching myself. We say we want our Boaz and we want this type of man, but what type of woman are you? Amen. Because God is not going to bless you with somebody who's, gotten their stuff together and you still messy is what I call it. You got to get yourself in the situation where you are available. Not, you meet somebody, you be like, oh, but I got 3 other ones I'm talking to.
Yeah.
You don't need to be juggling people because you're sharing. I mean, even if you're not, I'm not saying intimate, but you're sharing these conversations. You're connecting with people. And if you got, 3 or 4 people you just shifting gears with, you can't totally give who you truly are to an individual, because you got to make up a story why you can't see this one or that one. So then you're being untruthful. So you're entering into something with a falsehood. That's not going to amount to much.
That's good. No. And so let me ask you this. So what challenges, so what were your challenges when you were dating in the kingdom at the age of 50?
Well, I will say this, just because a man says he's a Christian,
come on,
doesn't mean he ain't trying to hit it. Okay. He can be quoting the scripture left and right. He know the ins and the outs from Genesis to Revelation. Yep. And still want to knock the boots. So you have to be careful, and again, be intentional. Because I think what happens is, men come to church knowing women in there are just quote unquote thirsty. They looking for a husband. So you come to church a few Sundays and, you ease up on somebody. Say, oh, girl, I've been seeing him. He go to church all the time. He toting the Bible, yada, yada, yada. And then you start, going out with him and you let your guards down because you're like, oh, he's a Christian. He knows right from wrong. He knows we ain't supposed to be fornicating. Please, you have to use the same parameters that you were going to use that your mentor has given you. And I would say this for dating in the kingdom. Okay, let's go to public places. Mm-hmm. You really don't want to go to the person's home. If you do, it's just for dinner, then you get up and leave. You're not doing a movie night, okay? You get on the couch, okay, y'all holding hands. Then the next thing you know, he rubbing your shoulders. And then, everybody getting all hot and bothered. And then what I say is, draws down, legs spread, it's over. So what? Now you say what now?
And I'm sorry, and the reason why it was funny, and I'm so glad that you brought that up, because I remember when I first said that to you, mm-hmm. people thought it was, what do you mean? I'm a grown woman. What do you mean? Yeah. Public places and mm-hmm. I can't go to his house. Can you unpack that a little bit, just about like when we first talked about that, mm-hmm. how you really felt about that, and like the criticism that even the men, mm-hmm. Gave you when that was your approach, when that was a part of your strategy when you were dating?
Yeah. I can remember one guy was dating right at 50. And, we're talking back and forth, and, he's all, I'm talking about the marriage thing, and we going to church together, yada, yada, yada. And then he tells me, well, I ain't going to be ready to get married for 2 or 3 years. I was like, really? I don't think so. I'm not waiting 2 or 3 years on you to make your mind up. Because, see, this is it. When a man finds a wife, he finds a good thing. And he knows it. Okay? I'm going to share with you what my husband said to me when we first met. You a wife.
That's it.
On our first date, he said, you a wife. And I had never had a man say that to me. Or, kind of be the first one to talk, about matrimony. So we have to realize it's going to be a struggle. And like you said, I used to give myself a curfew. That's something else I used to do. I'd be hanging out with my friends. We going out to dinner or doing, whatever. And I'd be looking at the clock. And I say, yeah, I got to go because I got to be home by 10. And, one night they was like, why? I'm turning into a pumpkin or something. I was like, no, that's my curfew. Because again, what happens late in the night? Mm-hmm. 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 We have to be intentional. If you want what you say you want, it's going to require some discipline. We're going to have to die to your flesh. And that's hard. I remember another incident that I shared with you. Okay. So I had Mr. Lord have mercy. I could go over his house and watch the fight. Mm-hmm. Then it wasn't a fight. It was the Super Bowl or something like that. Then I had my girlfriend and her significant other where we were going to a public place to watch the Super Bowl. And I was like, ooh, which one? It's like, what the outcome is going to be if you go with Mr. Lord have mercy. So I went with my friends,
Right.
And sometimes you the third wheel, sometimes you the fifth wheel, you the seventh wheel. But the thing of it is that you have to be comfortable being single around unsingle people.
Right.
That's something you have to do. And it's a process. I'm not saying I got everything right the first time because, I went around that mountain a couple of times and you would bring it right back to where, you started. Okay, you started doing this right, but you did steps 1, 2, and 3, but you left out 4 and 5 and then thought you was going to do 6. It doesn't work that way. It's a process. And if you want the process to work, you have to follow it. You have to be committed to doing that. And again, that kind of rolls into, can you be committed in a marriage? If you can't be committed with a mentor, with someone who has been successful in being married, that's another thing women have to be cognizant of. You're always hanging around other women who are single, trying to get advice from them. Really? And all they saying, I know I used to have this one friend and she was just a male bash. All men ain't no good. No, they're not all no good. There are some good men out there. And when you experience a bad man, you need to see what role did you play in that. Because typically you see some signs, because I say when you go first meet someone, they bring their representative and not them. So I know with me, I'm just straight, I'm going to say what I'm going to say and I'm going to eat. That's for sure. So if they don't say something about my appetite, that means I probably wasn't being the real me. Because when I go out, I'm not just eating a salad. I want appetizer. I want the main meal. And, I'm all elbows. And I look over at your plate like, okay, you gonna eat that? So that's how I am. I'm just raw on the first date. I'm not trying to put up this facade, but typically with I'll call them wolves, with the sheep, which is the women from the church, he'll do what they call now gaslighting. So he calling you out of time all the time, and he just can't get off the phone with you, and calling you the first thing in the morning, and all of this stuff, just buttering you up. And so again, you have to stick to what you know to do, and you'll have the right outcome.
And so, and this is so good. And so let me ask you, when you were dating, what methods, like some people think that their husband is like in the church that they're in, right? Mm-hmm. And so some people kind of stumble over like, well, how is it going to happen? Mm-hmm. I never tie God's hands. And one thing I say is the same way that you are a Christian, interacting in the community, going to the store, going to the bank, going to the gym, just living your life, there are other Christian men who are doing the same.
Exactly.
So can you speak to like, what were some of the avenues that you took to really connect with a Boaz, with the boundaries though, that we kind of talked about,
Sure.
to really help you navigate that and not waste your time with somebody like when you were saying that they're not ready?
Okay, so let me understand. Are you saying like what methods I went to as far as meeting someone?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so first of all, you got to get out of your triangle, which is church, work, and home. We say we want a husband. Well, he's not going to just come and knock on your door. Yeah. You're going to have to, I was involved with, professional organizations. I go to networking events. Whenever, your friends invite you somewhere, it's a possibility you might meet someone in that circle, so there's different avenues. But another one that I chose was online dating. Now, some people still cringe when you say that. Well, you don't know this person. Yeah. You don't know the person you going on the first date with, not for real, unless you did a background check. And we were least likely to do a background check when you meet someone in person. Well, online, you can do that. I can zero in on your house. I see your car. I see everything. I can see, who are these people connected with you? Oh, is that your ex-wife? Who is so-and-so, so-and-so? Oh, that's my son. Well, who's so-and-so, so-and-so? That's my sister. Oh, okay then. So you are who you say you are. Now, I did have one, I'll call him a minion. Anyway, he told the truth about everything except his age. And I was like, so all of this, right? I said, but the age don't match up. And so he was like, oh, he told me he was 50. And back then, I don't know what age I was. But anyway, I was like, but something doesn't add up. So, we dating and hanging out or whatever. And then finally he told me, oh, I'm 55. I said, okay. That still ain't right. Because he kept saying, I'm going to retire in 5 years. So typically the earliest somebody can retire typically is 62. So I'm already calculating it together. Dude, you're lying. Because your background say you're 57. We started off with 50, then we had to add 7 years on. So again, people not being truthful. And he gonna tell me, well, it don't matter now, you hooked. I said, baby, you don't know me. I'm moveon.com. Okay. That's it. You ain't got me hooked on nothing. If you're not going to be honest, you can't have a good, honest, healthy relationship.
And I think too, that speaks to whatever method, right, a person chooses. So whether it's networking within your friend group, right? Just like somebody knows you, they know your character, they know that you were, serving the Lord for real. They might know another person, like, oh, I think Jeff would be such a good fit for you. Maybe you can introduce, So, so whether it's through a friend, whether it's through online dating, whether it's in the community, the goal is, and one thing that I used to always say,
Mhm.
and I still say is, you have to give it time for the pretense to come down.
Amen.
Sometimes, we enter into these relationships and we're so excited that somebody's giving us attention. You
Mhm.
know, this is like a good prospect and all this. And one thing I used to always say, keep your panties up, keep the panties up. And one of the reasons I would say that is because God created sex as a gift for marriage, right? And
Mhm.
when you are intimate with someone, God is just so wise. It
Mhm.
really causes you to overlook things, right?
Mhm.
Because you're close and connected. And
You have
so,
that soul tie. See,
yes,
that's the thing,
yes. But the problem is when you have sex outside of marriage, you
Mhm.
overlook things that should not be overlooked.
Amen.
It causes you to, it's almost like a scale falls over your eyes. And so those signs that are so obvious, it's almost like we dismiss them. We don't see them as well as we would have had we not had sex, right? And so no, I feel like no matter what your method is, it's all
Mhm.
about spending time with a person in
Mhm.
public places. And I know a lot of women really kind of bucket that, like, in public places, what do you mean? Well, see, that's your safety net.
Right.
Because here's the thing. If you've already been intimate with somebody, right? Like, honey, but when I got married, honey, I had been smacked, flipped, rolled around, and everything else. So I knew what my limitations were. I
Mhm.
knew what I could take and I could not take. And I even
Mhm.
remember when my husband and I, we literally got to the point we couldn't even hold hands. We could not
Mhm.
hold hands when we were in our courtship. And it didn't take us long to figure out, no, this ain't gonna work. No, you meet me
Amen.
there.
Mhm.
I'm gonna drive, you gonna drive. And when we
Mhm.
leave, we're gonna leave separate because when we got married, we had not slept together. And
Mm.
before that, I never thought that was possible. Never,
Amen.
I had never in my life heard of anybody marrying somebody and never tasting
Right.
it.
So yeah, you got to try it out. Try it
Exactly.
out
But
too.
but but the thing is, when you date in such a way, regardless of what your method is, whatever you choose, you spend time with the person long enough for the pretense to come down. And
Mhm.
just like what you're saying, this guy, okay, it didn't take long for you to figure out he was a liar. If you're
Mhm.
lying about something as small as your age,
Mhm.
what else are you lying about? So when you don't enter into like a sexual relationship, even
Mhm.
if there's like an emotional connection, to
Mhm.
me, that's the equivalent of maybe like a paper cut.
Right.
If you kind of, break it off versus like a straight gutting. If you've been intimate with this person, now you break it up, they got all these pieces of you. It's just different, so I really appreciate you, kind of bringing that up because, like you say, a lot of people are turned off from online dating.
Mhm.
But I think the idea is to be open. One of the
Yes.
things that you and I used to talk about was get a life. When you talked about that
Yes.
triangle, I'm like, you don't have a life. All you do is go to work, you go home, you go to church and
Mhm.
the grocery store because you are an excellent cook. you know,
Yes.
but you
Yes.
didn't have a life. And so as
Mm.
you begin
Mm-mm.
to expand your perimeter, right,
Mhm. Mhm.
it
Mhm.
made all the difference.
Yes. Yes, it does. It does. And I think too, when you have friends who are married, and they know you desire to be married, like you said, they may know, their husband knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. Oh, he's single. He looking for, a Christian woman or a good woman, and you guys could connect. But if you're just doing your little triangle, and even in the triangle, if you're active in church, and what I mean by that, you're not necessarily just in the singles group because typically that's like 95% women,
Exactly.
but it's just various things that, like I was part of the welcome committee for first time guests. So I got to see everything. Um, or what was some of the other things? Oh, you could go out, in the community and you're passing out food or whatever. But it was just different things that you could do to put yourself in different places, where you might find a suitor, you know So I think that's it too. We want God to do everything, but you got to do something.
Amen. And so going back to a question I asked before,
Mm-hmm.
did you have any challenges outside of, like, any mental challenges? Like, as you kind of got back out there,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'm 50 now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, um, was there anything that really just that ever popped up where you felt like it's just not going to happen? So
Right.
whether it's like you kind of met this person, okay, that didn't work out, and then this,
Yeah.
and then, so did you ever come to a point where you really just had to encourage yourself to just kind of keep reminding yourself that one day this
Yeah,
is
it's
going to
going to
happen?
happen. Yeah, I would say at that 50 mark, because in my mind, like with my first marriage, I said I'm going to be married by the time I'm 30 with 2 kids. And I was. But that wasn't built on, the right foundation. So that's why that didn't last. So then I was like, okay, I'm 50 now. I'm ready to be married. And it's like, it just don't happen like that. Just because you think you ready, I would say after 51, 52, I would get a little discouraged. Um, but again, it was just something in me. Even though I would get discouraged for a while, I said, I desire to be married.